Okay, so I'll be reading this Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and I will read it for 15 minutes. Do you know who you really are and what you are capable of? I'm sure you think so, but just because you believe something doesn't make it true. Denial is this ultimate comfort zone. Don't worry, you aren't alone. In every town, in every country, all over the world, millions roam the streets, dead-eyed as zombies, addicted to comfort, embracing a victim's mentality, and unaware of their true potential. I know this because I meet and hear about from them all the time, and because just like you, I used to be one of them. I had a damn good excuse to. Life dealt with a bad hand. I was born I was born broken, grew up with beat downs, was tormented in school and more times than I could count. We were once poor, surviving on welfare, living in government subsidized housing, and my depression was smothering. I lived life at the bottom of the barrel, and my future forecast was bleak as fuck. Every few people know how the bottom feels, but I do. It's like quicksand. It grabs you, sucks you under, and won't let go. When life is like that, it's easy to drift and continue to make the same comfortable choices that are killing you over and over again. But the truth is, we all make habitual, self limiting choices. It's as natural as a sunset and as fundamental as gravity. It's because it's how our brains are wired, which is why motivation is crap. Even the best pep talk or self-help hack is nothing but a temporary fix. It won't rewire your brain, it won't amplify your voice or uplift your life. Motivation changes exactly nobody. The bad hand that was my life was mine and mine alone to fix. So I sought out pain, fell in love with suffering, and eventually transformed myself from the weakest piece of shit on the planet into the hardest man God ever created. Or so I tell myself. Odds are you have had a much better childhood than I did, and even now might have a damn decent life. But no matter who you are, who your parents are, or where you live, or who your parents are, or where you live, what you do for a living, or how much money you have, you are probably living at about 40% of your true capability. Damn shame. We all have the potential to be so much more. Years ago, I was invited to be on a panel at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I had never set foot in a university lecture as a student. I had barely graduated high school, yet I was at one of the most prestigious institutions in the country to discuss mental toughness with a handful of others. At some point in the discussion, as esteemed MIT professor said that we each have genetic limitations, hard ceilings, that there are some things we just can't do no matter how mentally tough we are. When we each hit our genetic ceiling, he said, mental toughness doesn't enter into equation. Everyone in that room seemed to accept his version of reality because this senior tenured professor was known for researching mental toughness. It was his life's work. It was also a bunch of bullshit. And to me, he was using science to let us all off the hook. I had been quiet until then because I was surrounded by all these smart people, feeling stupid. But someone in the audience noticed the look on my face and asked if I agreed. And if you ask me a direct question, I won't be shy. There's something to be said for living it instead of studying it, I said, then turned toward the professor. What you said is true for most people, but not 100%. There will always be the 1% of us who are willing to put in the work to defy the odds. I went on to explain what I knew from experience, that anybody can become a totally different person and achieve what so called experts like him claim is impossible. But it takes a lot of hard will, and an armored mind. Heraclitus, a philosopher born in the Persian Empire back in the 5th century BC, had it right when he wrote about men on the battlefield. Out of every 100 men he wrote, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are the real fighters, and we are lucky to have them. For they make the battle. Ah, but the one is a warrior. When the time you take your first breath, you become eligible to die. You also become eligible to find your greatness and become the one warrior. But it is up to you to equip yourself for the battle ahead. Once you can master your mind, which is what it takes to live a bold life filled with accomplishments most people consider beyond their capability. I am not a genius like those professors at MIT, but I am that one warrior, and the story you are about to read, the story of my fucked up life, will illuminate a proven path to self mastery and empower you to face reality. Hold yourself accountable, push past pain, learn to love what you fear, relish failure, relish failure, live to your fullest potential, and find out who you really are. Human beings change through study, habit, and stories. Through my story, you will learn what the body and mind are capable of when they are driven to a maximum capacity, and how to get there. Because when you are driven, whatever is in front of you, whether it's racism, sexism, injuries, divorce, depression, obesity, tragedy, or poverty, becomes fuel for your metamorphosis. The steps laid out here amount to the evolutionary algorithm, one that obliterates barriers, glimmers with glory, and delivers lasting peace. I hope you're ready. It's time to go to war with yourself. Chapter 1. I should have been a statistic. We found hell in a beautiful neighborhood. In 1981, Williamsville offered the tastiest real estate in Buffalo, New York. Leafy and friendly, its safest streets were dotted with dainty homes filled with model citizens. Doctors, attorneys, steel plant executives, dentists, and professional football players lived there with their adoring wives and two kids. Cars were new, roads swept, possibilities endless. We are talking about a living, breathing American dream. Hell was a corner lot on Paradise Road. That's where we lived in a two-story, four-bedroom, white wooden home with four square pillars framing a front porch that led to the widest, greeniest lawn in Williamsville. We had a vegetable garden out back and a two-car garage stocked with a 1962 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud, a 1980 Mercedes 450 SLC, and in the driveway a sparkling new 1981 black Corvette. Everyone on Paradise Road lived near the top of the food chain, and based on appearances, most of our neighbors thought that we, the so called happy, well adjusted Goggins family, were the tip of that spear. Tip of that spear. But glossy surfaces reflect much more than they reveal. They see us mostly weekdays mornings gather in the driveway at 7 a.m. My dad, Ernest Goggins, wasn't tall, but he was handsome and built like a boxer. He wore tailored suits, his smile warm and open. He looked every bit the successful businessman on his way to work. My mother, Jackie, was 17 years younger, slender and beautiful, and my brother and I were clean cut, well dressed in jeans and pastel izod shirts, and strapped with backpacks like just like the other kids. The white kids in our version of affluent America. Each driveway was a staging ground for nods and waves before parents and children rode off to work and school. Neighbors saw what they wanted. Nobody probed too deep. Good thing the truth was the Goggins family had just returned from home from another all-nighter in the hood. And if Paradise Road was hell, that meant I lived with the devil himself. As soon as a neighbor shut the door or turned the corner, my father's smile morphed into a scowl. He barked orders and went inside to sleep another one off. But our work wasn't done. My brother Tronis Jr. and I had somewhere to be, and it was up to our sleepless mother to get us there. I was in the first grade in 1981 and I was in a school days. For real. Not because the academics were hard, at least not yet, but because I couldn't stay awake. The teacher's sing-song voice was my lullaby, my crossed arms on my desk, a comfy pillow, and her sharp words. Once she caught me dreaming, an unwelcome alarm clock that wouldn't stop blaring. Children that young are infinite sponges. They soak up language and ideas at warp speed to establish a fundamental foundation upon which most people build lifelong skills like reading and spelling and basic math. But for but because I work nights, I couldn't concentrate on anything most mornings except trying to stay awake. Recess and PE were a whole different minefield. Out on the playground, staying lucid was the easy part. The hard part was the hiding. Couldn't let my shirt slip, couldn't wear shorts. Bruises were red flags I couldn't show because if I did, I knew I'd catch even more. Still on the playground and in the classroom, I knew I was safe for a little while at least. It was the one place he couldn't reach me. He couldn't reach me, at least not physically. My brother went through a similar dance in sixth grade, his first year in middle school. He had his own wounds to hide and sleep to harvest because once that bell rang, real life began. The ride from Winsfield to the Maston district in East Buffalo took about a half an hour, but it may as well has have been a world away. Like much of East Buffalo, Maston was a mostly black working class neighborhood in the inner city that was rough through around the edges. Though in the early 1980s, it was not yet completely ghetto as fuck. But then the Bethlehem steel plant was still humming, and Buffalo was the last great American steel town. Most men in the city were black and white, worked solid union jobs, and earned a living wage, which meant business in Maston was good. For my dad, it always had been. But by the time he was 20 years old, he owned a Coca Cola distribution concession and four delivery routes in the Buffalo area. That's good money for a kid, but he had bigger dreams and eye for the future. The future had four wheels and a disco funk soundtrack. When a local bakery shut down, he leased the building and built one of the Buffalo's first roller skating rinks. Fast forward 10 years, and Scotland had been relocated to a building on Ferry Street that stretched nearly a full block in the heart of the Maston district. He opened a bar above the rink, which he named the Vermilion Room. In the 1970s, that was the place to be in East Buffalo, and it's where he met my mother. Then she was just 19, and he was 36. It was our first time away from home. Jackie grew up in the Catholic Church. Junis was the son of a minister and knew her language well enough to masquerade as a believer, which appealed to her. But let's keep it real. She was just as drunk on his charm. Junis Jr. was born in 1971. I was born in 1975. And by the time I was 6 years old, The roller disco craze was at its absolute peak. Skateland rocked every night. We'd usually get there around 5 p.m., and while my brother worked with the concession stand, popping corns, grilling hot dogs, loading the cooler, and making pizzas, I organized the skates by the sizes. Okay, time is up. Adios.